Today, we're diving into the story of a truly devastating genetic disease, but also the incredible, monumental breakthrough that is completely rewriting the future for thousands of people.
So at the very heart of this story is a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA. Now what is that? It's a genetic disorder where the body's motor neurons, the nerve cells that control all our muscle movements, they just start to break down. And this leads to this progressive weakness and, in the most severe cases, even paralysis.
For the longest time, getting an SMA diagnosis was, well, it was a diagnosis without any real hope for a cure. But that has fundamentally totally changed. A condition that was once considered untreatable is now right at the center of a genuine revolution in genetic medicine.
To really understand just how big this breakthrough is, first we've got to understand the problem itself. Let's look at the science behind this devastating diagnosis. It really all boils down to one single gene, SMN1. A tiny mutation here means the body just can't make enough of a really critical protein. It's actually called the survival motor neuron protein. Pretty clear name, right? Well, without enough of it, those motor neurons in the spinal cord, they just can't survive. They start to degenerate, and that crucial connection between the brain and the muscles, it slowly gets lost.
And that brings us to the genetic revolution, a moment that really signals a true turning point in this fight.
Okay, so on December 8th, 2025, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, they announced some huge news, the approval of a new therapy called eveything for patients with SMA. And this wasn't just, another pill or another drug. This was a completely new way of thinking.
So what is eveything? Well, it's a real one-and-done gene therapy. The scientific name is gene abaparvaviec. Bit of a mouthful, I know. But through just a single injection, it delivers a brand new working copy of that broken SMN1 gene directly to the motor neurons. Think about that. It doesn't just treat the symptoms, it actually replaces the broken piece of the genetic code. And the approval? It was based on undeniable data showing just massive improvements in motor function.
And you can bet the excitement in the medical community was just off the charts. Dr. John Day over at Stanford called it a game-changing advance, one that expands the use of this, quote, transformational gene replacement therapy for SMA across all age groups. Game-changing, for sure.
Now, this active component, gene abaparvaviec, it's joining a field where there are already other really powerful gene-based therapies. So, the big question is, how does it stack up against the competition? Well, let's let the data tell the story.
To answer that question, we're going to look at a huge meta-analysis from 2024. And when I say huge, I mean it. It pulled together the results from 57 different studies, looking at over 3,400 patients to compare the three leading treatments head-to-head.
All right, let's start with what is probably the most critical outcome of all, survival. The data shows gene abaparvaviec with the highest survival rate at 95%. That's followed by risdiplam at 86%. And then nusinersen at 60. So you can see a really clear difference right away.
Okay, so survival is obviously key, but what about quality of life? The impact on motor function is just as telling. Here, gene abaparvaviec and risdiplam are practically neck and neck, helping 92 and 90% of patients see real, meaningful improvements. Nusinersen comes in next with a 74% improvement rate.
This table really pulls it all together. You can see gene abaparvaviec leads in survival and this is a big one, it's the only therapy of the three that significantly reduces the need for ventilators, which is just a critical factor in severe SMA. So while risdiplam is right there in the race on motor function, when you look at the whole picture, these studies give the newer therapy a pretty clear edge.
So you look at that data, and the choice seems pretty simple, right? But the research points to something even more important than which therapy you use. So the question then becomes, is it always about just picking the drug with the highest percentage on the chart?
And the answer from all the research is an overwhelming no. Because the single most decisive factor isn't the what, it's the when. Timing, it turns out, is absolutely everything.
And here's why this is so unbelievably critical. SMA kills motor neurons, and once they're gone, they are gone forever. They don't grow back. These amazing gene therapies, they can protect and rescue the neurons that are still alive, but they can't bring back the ones that have already died. So the goal, it becomes a race against time. You have to treat the disease before that irreversible damage is done.
This reality has created a whole new public health mission, a true race to diagnose and treat these kids from day one of their life.
So how are we doing in that race? This number, it's pretty sobering. As of 2024,
only 7% of babies worldwide are screened for SMA at birth. For the other 93%, the clock is already ticking before anyone even knows there's a problem.
And the stakes couldn't be clearer when you look at these two paths. With newborn screening, treatment can start before symptoms even show up, leading to dramatically better outcomes across the board. Without it, treatment only starts after the damage is already underway, which means more significant, lasting disability. The difference here isn't small. We are talking about the difference between two completely different lives.
Ultimately, the story of SMA is an incredible triumph of science, for sure, but it's also a really powerful lesson for all of us. It shows us that developing a revolutionary cure is really only half the battle. The other half is building a system that can deliver that cure at the precise moment it matters most. And that, right there, might be the biggest challenge for the entire future of genetic medicine.